evening and welcome to the Film Forum, Atlanta's only movie talk show where we keep you in touch with the film industry here in Georgia as well as bring you the latest releases. I'm Steve Markos, with me, Aron Siegel. Aron, we got a good show tonight.
We have a great show tonight, Steve.
As usual, right?
As usual.
All right. Well, we're going to review a couple movies. What are we going to be reviewing this week?
Well, tonight, Steve, we've got Posse and we've got Sliver.
All right, sounds good. And then after that, we'll be doing our Critics' Choice, which is our favorite villain movie. So Aron will be telling you his favorite three, and I'll be telling you his favorite three. And we have a special guest tonight.
You're going to be telling them my favorite three?
No, you tell them yours.
And you tell them yours.
Right.
Okay.
All righty. And who's the guest tonight?
We have a special guest. Tonight we have Michelle Herald. She's a location scout.
All right, so we didn't get our
special guest.
That may be next week, right?
That may be next week.
All right, so all you all that called in last week about Posse, and we told you we might have a very, very special guest. That may be next week. So anyway, let's get on with the films. Aron, what do you want to review first here?
What about Sliver?
Sliver? All right, let's go. We go with that.
Okay, Sliver stars Sharon Stone, Tom Berenger, and William Baldwin. It's the story of Carly Norris, played by Stone, who is a literary editor who moves into a big high-rise apartment complex. And she surprisingly looks like the last tenant who was murdered. This is a study in voyeurism and murder and all sorts of interesting things like that. Anyway, Stone plays Carly Norris. She is in danger of being murdered, and she is not sure if any of the tenants are doing the killing, but she has a hunch. And what we've got here now is a scene from Sliver where Sharon Stone has just received a telescope from an anonymous admirer.
They're doing it! I don't believe it, they are! Oh! Let me see. Oh, they sure are.
Would you look at her? She's a voyeur. She can't get enough.
I am not.
Yes, you are. That's why you have this telescope out here. You're a beeper. A beeper, beeper, beeper.
Somebody gave this to me.
Right.
Everybody has a telescope.
I don't. I do.
Thank you.
I do too.
I'm shocked. I'm truly shocked. You people are shameless. You're all shameless. What is with you guys?
Look at that.
Come on, Alex, hurry up before they finish. Just a moment. I want to look too.
Oh, my God.
Okay, and that's a scene from Sliver, which opened last Friday. And
What do you think, Aron? I'll let you go first here.
well, I thought the concepts of voyeurism and murder and the television surveillance and the telescopes, as far as sex and the innuendo, I thought it was it's a really interesting topic, and it's really difficult to decide whether or not this is right or wrong. Because
did you think that they played up the sex as much as people have been promoting? You think the movie was actually the sex fest that they were promising?
No, I don't think so.
I didn't either. I thought that.
Basic Instinct had more sex in it.
Well, I thought that the movie was more a mystery and stuff like that. The director is Philip Noyce, who did Dead Calm. If you saw Dead Calm, people who haven't seen that, that's a great movie. He is great at bringing atmosphere and eeriness to the film, and he does that in Slither. And for it's about a 2-hour movie, and about an hour and 40 minutes of the movie was a fantastic movie. I was very interested in the movie and everything like that. But everyone's been
based
complaining.
on the novel by Ira Levin, and it had 5 different endings when they finally ended up.
Well, everyone says the ending isn't any good, and I have to agree. The ending starts to unravel. Number one, it's an ending that just ends, and you're saying, where's the rest of the movie? I hate that. But the ending starts to unravel and starts to undermine the entire plot. It's a Joe Esterhaus script, and he is a classic at writing what I call the unjustified surprise ending. That's a term I've coined. The unjustified surprise ending is when you make the innocent person look so guilty that the real person that he makes guilty, it just doesn't make any sense. And not as much the case here as in Basic Instinct. Basic Instinct was like, you had Sharon Stone had a few things looking guilty, and the other girl had hundreds of things.
Right.
And all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, there's no way that Sharon Stone's the murderer. And in this movie, it's not as much.
I thought it was interesting that Sharon Stone is not the is not the killer,
No.
not the evil person, not the
She's
heavy in
kind
this
of
film.
caught up
She's-
between the two people.
Right.
No one in the movie is really a good character. They're all kind of a little seedy
That's true.
for the most part. So there's not really a hero that you can relate to.
There's the best-selling crime novelist, and then there's the video game designer.
Yeah. So the one thing that I hate about the ending, and I can't say this movie plays well, just like Basic Instinct, for those type of people who don't like to think about the ending. It looks good on the surface, but if you start thinking about the ending, this thing just doesn't add up. And anyone that's really going to analyze it is going to say this is a bunch of crap. I can tear this ending apart. I can't right now because I'd give away the ending. A few months from now, someone wants to call up and say, Steve, what's your argument against this ending? I can destroy the ending. And Esterhaus has a problem. It's like someone might say, Joe, this doesn't make any sense, and he says, no one will notice that.
How many stars are you going to give it?
I'm going to give it a 2.5. The first hour and 40 minutes was fantastic.
That's what I'm going to give it to.
If the ending had been as good as the rest of the movie, it might have had a 4-star movie. But when you're watching a film and you're into it, and all of a sudden you start thinking about, wait a second, this doesn't make any sense. Your mind is taken away from the movie, and that's what happened to me at the end. I'm like, this isn't logical. This isn't right, and therefore I was taken out of the film. And that's why my reasons for the 2.5 stars.
Okay.
So 2.5 star unanimous. We're on a 4-star system here. So that's a little bit above average. I'd say check it out at the matinee.
Yeah.
Don't pay $6 for it. All right, we'll get on with our second film tonight. It's Posse. Came out a couple weeks ago. This is the latest action-packed Western to come to the theaters. It's also a history lesson that shows us that not all cowboys and gangster and gunfighters are white guys. Posse follows a group of black gunfighters who are on the run from the army after they try to make off with a treasure chest full of gold. And in the scene we're about to take a look at, we're going to see some of the action that I'm talking about, and the posse is making off with the gold, and they're caught by the army, and the officers is Billy Zane. And by the way, he is after them because he wanted to make off with the gold himself.
Good morning, gentlemen. Seem to have lost our way home, have we? Out of uniform, and AWOL is no way to end a career, Jesse. But rest assured, the record will show you all died heroes.
What about the gold?
Well, I believe the answer to that one is what gold?
All right, and that's a scene from Posse that came out a couple weeks ago. And before we do our review, we're going to take a phone call. We got a caller out there in TV land. Caller, what's your question?
Yes, sir. I have a question.
All righty.
Yes.
I've seen Basic Instinct, and I liked it a lot. But I was wondering, in Sliver, do we get to see Sharon Stone naked as much?
About the same.
About the same amount.
About the same.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right,
you.
so I guess he'll be checking that one out. All right, on to Posse. The only complaint I had about Posse is that at the beginning of the film and a few other times, the pace of, not the pace of the action, the pace of the editing is sometimes so frantic, and I'm so overwhelmed with action, I'm almost like, slow down a second. I need to catch up. I was just overwhelmed with the visuals at time, and it was hard to follow, especially at the beginning of the movie.
See, I liked it that way. I
Did you?
liked all that editing, that fast-paced editing, because I didn't want it to drag. Because you think Western, these days people think Western, they're going to go, oh, well, gosh, the West was slow. Everybody just sat around and didn't do anything, and it was hot. And so this fast-paced editing really, it keeps the action going, keeps your interest up.
It was almost like an MTV video at times. There's a lot of artistic camera work in the film. For some people, that may be a little bit too much. You know, a lot of people just want to see Western. They don't want to see MTV camera shots and weirdness and those quick cuts. Like I said, there's a lot of characters in the movie, and that was one thing that was confusing to me was to sort out who was who when things were happening so fast. You saw the action in that scene, and it's almost pretty hard to see who's killing who. And I like the pace of the action. It was just the editing at times was just too fast for me. That's the only complaint I had about the movie. Plenty of action and violence for people who love that. Plenty of excitement. And I do want to make one point here. All right. I mean, do you have any more to say? Or
Well, as far as the underlying themes of the film, it makes the white guys the bad guys.
Well, I was gonna say something on that. A lot of white people are turned off by going to films that they perceive as going to be a black film. Posse
Passenger
is
57 was
Posse,
the same way.
No. Passenger 57 is not. When I say black, I'm talking Spike Lee. This is not a black film. This is a movie where the guys happen to be black. When I mean black, I'm talking like Spike Lee movie because the majority of white people, just as the majority of black people, are not racist. They don't go around hating everybody. And a lot of white people go to a Spike Lee film and say, "Man, I'm sitting here for 2 hours while this guy is telling me how bad I am." And I haven't never done anything bad to anybody.
I realized that there were a long time ago there were a lot of westerns or a lot of films just in the film industry that the black guys have always been the bad guys.
Well, in most West, that's what I'm saying. Posse is not it's not trying to make any racist statements. White people don't need to be afraid to go to that. It's a cowboy movie. It's an action movie. Sure, the white guys are the villains, but the white guys were the villains in any Clint Eastwood movie, any John Ford movie, any Sergio Leone movie. If the white guys would have been the villains of this movie, whether or not the posse was black or white.
That's true.
So it's not totally colorblind. I mean, you get to see they're trying, but it's not totally colorblind. But there's not a racist message in this movie. This movie is made to make money, to be action packed, and to be a good western. And you don't have to. White people don't need to say this is going to be a black movie. I don't need to go to it.
Well, it's not a black movie.
It's not a black movie. It's just a movie where the anti-heroes happen to be black. And I'm going to go with 2.5 stars on this film, just because sometimes I was just confused a lot of times.
I'm going to give this one 3.5.
3.5, so we're an even 3 stars. Definitely check it out.
Okay, and
It's
we've
a good
got a
movie.
phone call. Hello, caller?
Yes, first of all, I'd like to say I really love your show.
All right, well,
Thank
that sounds
you.
good to us.
I enjoy it. And I just want to comment, that guy just called in, kind of that Joker,
Yeah.
talking about Sharon Stone. What I really want to know is, you get to see any of William Baldwin?
I don't know. I wasn't much into
I wasn't
into
paying
that.
attention.
But,
Okay. Oh, but you do get to see Stephen Baldwin in Posse.
yeah, you get to
His
see
brother,
him naked,
so-
so one of his brothers. Anyway, all right, let's get on. Thanks for the call, by the way.
Yes.
Top 10?
Okay, we're going to take a look at the Metro Atlanta box office. These are the films that you went to see this weekend. So this is your chart. And at number 10 of this week is The Sandlot. It holds on to the 10th spot. It's the 7th week in the top 10.
I'd like to point out on the national top 10, Sandlot is not in there. Groundhog Day is number 10. Groundhog Day was released 15 weeks ago. So it's still doing well nationally.
Yeah. Number 9 is Benny and June. It drops 2 notches to end at number 9, or to fall to number 9. Falling from number 6 to number 8 is Lost in Yonkers, the Neil Simon film that we reviewed last week. At number 7 is Sidekicks. It's the 3rd week in the top 10. At number 6 is Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. It drops from the 3rd position to from its 3rd week in release. At number 5 this week is Indecent Proposal. It's the 7th week in the top 5 positions.
And it's one of the biggest hits so far in 93.
At number 4 is Dave. It was number 2 last week, so it drops 2 positions down to number 4. At number 3, dropping from number 1, is Posse, which we just reviewed. At number 2 this week is Hot Charts Part 2. It debuts at number 2. And at number 1 this week is a film we just reviewed, Sliver.
All right. And no longer in the top 10, Who's the Man and Indian Summer are gone. They lasted 3 weeks. And I believe we have another phone call. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, I'm calling about the movie Posse. I just saw this is the first time I've had the opportunity to see any clips of it.
right.
Can you give me an idea of what the plot is from the beginning?
Basically, these guys, the posse, they were Army members, and they were supposed to go get a chest full of gold and bring it back to the Army commander, who was Billy Zane. Well, they decided they're going to steal it themselves, and the rest of the movie is them getting chased. They were in Cuba.
Cuba, and they
start with. They
made
come
their
back
way
to-
all the way out to the.
Yeah, they
the-
come out to New
the
Orleans,
west.
and the army is after them. And then in the meantime, they head out to Freedom Town, which is a black community in which
Mario Van Peebles' father.
started. And they're getting run off by the railroad barons who want the land because they're going to run a railroad through there. So when the posse gets there, they help out the townspeople as well.
Okay.
And it's a western, a lot of action, a lot of violence.
Okay, well, I'm definitely going to see it next week.
All righty.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right, now we're going to get on with our Critics' Choice. Aaron, who are your favorite 3 film villains?
Favorite 3 film villains. Well, the minute I hear the word villain, I always think of the old Batman series, the 60s series of Batman. So the first villain that I came up with was the Joker from Batman that came out in 1989, directed by Tim Burton. Jack Nicholson played the Joker and just was an excellent villain. I mean, you loved this guy and you hated this guy. That's all I can say about him. My number 2 favorite villain was Wolfgar from Nighthawks. It was played by Rutger Hauer. The film was directed by Bruce Malmoth and came out in 1981. It starred Sylvester Stallone and Billy D. Williams, and was about a terrorist that was trying to escape prison, trying to escape imprisonment. And my number 1 favorite villain was Hans, played by Alan Rickman in the 1988 film Die Hard with Bruce Willis. It was directed by John McTiernan. And Hans he's not a terrorist, he's a crook that is masquerading as a terrorist who's holding people hostage on the floor of a high-rise office building and will not let them go until he's broken into the safe to steal some bonds, stocks and bonds. Those are my favorite 3 villains.
All right, and my favorite 3 villains, number 3 favorite villains, 2 of them in the 1972 movie Deliverance. If you remember, squeal like a pig, Bill McKinney, who was billed as the Mountain Man, and Herbert Cowboy Howard, billed as Toothless, with such great lines that just get them pants right on down, boy. Probably the most infamous rape scene in history. And the thing about it today, I was watching it the other week, and it's almost funny today because so many jokes have been made about this. And I know I wanted to be terrified. I'm sure people back in 72 were terrified because these guys were pretty evil mountain men who Ned Beatty and John Voight and Burt Reynolds just happened to be in the wrong spot and run into these guys out there, and they're going to do them in. And I had a friend of mine ask, he goes, what in the world was Ned Beatty doing in that movie? He's the guy that gets raped by these 2 guys, and that was Ned Beatty's debut. So obviously, any chance to be in a movie with John Voight and Burt Reynolds, he would jump on it. Oh, two great villains. Number 2, from Blue Velvet, Frank Booth, played by Dennis Hopper. Evil, sadistic guy who was a sex fiend. If you've seen Blue Velvet, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it, he's a great villain. This was a comeback for Dennis Hopper, who was rehabbed from drugs and alcohol.
He'd also been blacklisted by Hollywood.
Had he? I didn't know that. I do know that he was talking about how he got up, how he recalled these emotions, and he actually recalled his emotions and past experiences. In a quote, he said, before his drug hab, he said, normally I would have taken cocaine to get that sort of frenzy, or I would have used an amyl nitrate in the mask, and now here he is reformed. Oddly enough, a lot of people thought he would get an Academy Award nomination for this. He didn't. He got Academy Award nomination that same year for his role in Hoosiers as the drunk, one of the basketball players. And he was surprised that he was nominated for that. He couldn't believe it. He said, wait, I should have got the nomination for Blue Velvet. And number 1, my favorite villain, is the same as Aaron's, by the way, so this must be a really bad guy. Hans Gruber, played by Alan Rickman. He is such a suave and sophisticated criminal. And usually when you have a villain that is suave and sophisticated and educated, they're so corny. Because how many terrorists and crooks do you know that are like that? Most terrorists and crooks got dynamite tied around them, and they're going around killing everybody. So it's very hard to pull off this kind of guy. But Hans Gruber, Alan Rickman, pulls it off. And that's why Die Hard was such a great movie. Not only because of the action, because it has such a great villain. I really like the guy. And when I like him, I mean I really hated him. And those are my favorite 3 villains. And I would also, we like to remind you that when we do our video releases, these are all on video. I mean, our Critics' Choice. And if you haven't seen them, check them out. These are movies we recommend.
Okay. Why don't we go with the home video release?
All right, let's see what's on home video this week. All right, home video this week. We have Alpha, and which we gave 2 stars back when we reviewed it. Toys with Robin Williams. That was a Barry Levinson movie.
Right.
You liked it a little more than I did.
Yeah, I love the sets, the set design, and the art direction in Toys.
Used People also came out, which we gave 2.5 stars. And then 2 movies we haven't seen is 50-50 and Doppelganger.
Doppelganger.
Which I haven't even heard of, but I was told that is an evil twin movie.
An evil twin movie.
Yeah, someone's haunted by their ghost of the evil twin. And then on pay-per-view this week, we have The Player, which we gave 3.5 stars. That's very similar to Dave, which is out right now, and the fact that it has cameos by a lot of real-life movie stars and stuff like that.
It has cameos by politicians and Dave.
Yeah, Dave, and then The Player has cameos by the actors. Captain Ron, which you gave 2 stars. I haven't seen it. Passenger 57, which is one of those movies like Die Hard that has the suave, sophisticated guy that they don't quite pull off. And Serafina. And that's on pay-per-view, so if you want to watch, check it out. Now we're going to come back, and we have a phone call. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
I like that guy, Hart Wagner, who also played in Die Hard.
Yes.
And I saw a movie, I think it was like Apartment Zero or something on cable. And he was in, I was wondering if y'all know of any other good films that he's in.
Alan Rickman?
No, Hart Wagner.
Oh,
He was the guy that said, it was like the executive guy that did cocaine, the sleazeball.
Oh, that guy, yeah. You couldn't wait for him to get killed, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't know of any other. He looks real familiar, but I can't offhand. Don't know any films.
I'm not sure of anything that he's
I know Hans Gruber was the bad guy in
that was his
Robin
name.
Hood. I mean, Alan Rickman.
Alan
was in
Rickman
Robin
has
Hood.
also been the villain in Robin Hood, and he was a good guy in January Man with Kevin Kline and Mary Elizabeth.
Well, as far as the other guy, I really don't know. Couldn't help you on that one.
Okay, thanks
All right,
a lot.
thanks for the call.
Okay. Each week on Film Forum, we have a special guest. This week is no different. We have Michelle Herald. She is a location scout, and what we'd like to do now is welcome Michelle to the show. Welcome to the show, Michelle.
So tell us what you do. You're a location scout. We've had a location scout on before, so exactly how do you get started in doing something like this? And what do you do? What's your job responsibilities?
Well, I got started at basically what we call schlepping, doing some PA work and finding someone that needed an assistant who actually showed me how to go around and find what they need. And I look at it more or less like we are the artists who help paint the canvas, which is the film, and everyone's job helps to create the look, but the location is the look. It is the main look. You can't shoot without a good location.
That's for sure.
Okay. What are some of the tools that location scouts use?
My best tool is my camera and my car. My car gets me to where I need to go, and my camera makes it possible for them to see what it is I've found. And
How did you get started doing this?
I started working as an office production assistant on a film and found someone that needed an assistant who offered to train me and teach me how to be a location scout. And basically, he taught me how to use my instincts to find really what was in the script.
Now, most location scouts, are they people that actually live in the area? I mean, if you went to Chicago, would you bring a scout that you worked with from Georgia, or would you hire someone from Chicago that knew the area?
A good scout can scout just about anywhere if you use your instincts to scout. But basically, if you know the areas of town, you can go and find what they look if you've got a good instinct for it. But basically, they use local people so that
What's
they...
the farthest you've scouted besides right here in Georgia?
Just Georgia. I've
Georgia.
just scouted Georgia.
So you know that pretty well.
Right.
And I understand you brought some of your, I guess, your tools.
Right. This is how we put together what we call a choice list. We put them into a panoramic style photograph and into a folder and show them all the looks of the location, the outside, the inside, and usually the director does not want to be limited, so you shoot what's across the street so that if they have to see across the street. And this is an old jail we now use as a location. It's been
Can you get
filmed.
a wider shot for this?
It's been filmed in quite often. And proceeds when you shoot here of a location fee go toward the homeless shelter, so I like to use as much as possible.
Now, instead of using a wide-angle lens here, you've taken a lot of just regular pictures and pasted them together.
Okay,
Is
let's go ahead and look
that
at another
something
one.
you do, or is that like everybody does?
Different location scouts use different styles. I like to do this to show the reality, to make it as real as possible so that it doesn't distort the actual view of what they're going to be seeing.
All righty. We have another picture here.
Got
which
another
is
one? Okay.
More of the jail.
Got
looks
too
like.
much glare here. Okay. And, okay, we got another one here. This one looks kind of interesting, so let's see if we can do this one.
This jail actually has the old bars, which they don't use anymore, and all of the old beds, so it has a lot of original things in it. It makes it very easy for the set dressers.
And what were you working on this particular piece here?
This was a music video for a local band that's made it big called Jackal, and they do some hard rock and roll and draw a pretty young crowd, and they were pretending to be in jail and being rescued by a beautiful woman.
Okay, sounds like great.
I was wondering, what kind of, what films have you done as far as location scouting?
Most recently, there was a film that was just out on NBC. It was class of 1861, and that was a period film done by Steven Spielberg for television, and had a very beautiful look. It was about the last graduating class from West Point before the war broke out, and it was a beautiful script.
Now, do these people, when they say we want this location, say a jail, do you go out and just get one jail and say here it is, or do you go out and get 10 of them and they pick from them, or we want a mountain range, you get 10 mountain ranges and they get to pick from one? Or
I try to give them as many choices as possible. Each director is a little different than the next, and some are very picky and some know exactly what they want. And sometimes they come in without a clue and they ask you to find them what they want.
so you could give them basically anything and they'll take it. Some of them do that.
Some of them.
Want a lot of choices.
I try to give them as many choices so that I feel like that they get the best look possible.
And
Alright.
how do you train for this? I mean, when you look at locations, what makes you special as far as?
Having a trained eye basically is knowing if the production can actually work effectively there, if they can park the trucks where they want to be and get the equipment in quickly, as well as get the entire look they need. Something that's going to work for them in all areas is definitely to the advantage for the budget and the director.
Okay. That's all the time that we've got. We wanted to thank Michelle for being on the program tonight.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Enjoyed being here.
Join us here next Wednesday on Film Forum when we'll have 2 feature releases. Our Critics' Choice will be our favorite animated films, and we'll have a very special guest involved in the film industry. That's next Wednesday, Film Forum, 10 o'clock, Channel 12. See you next Wednesday.